Come chill on the couch with us.
Welcome back to The Couch. Time for Pollie Waffle for 2012. And with us are two Pollie Wafflers. We've got Senator Louise Pratt from WA Labor. Thank you very much for being here today.
Hello.
And welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
On this very warm day in Perth.
It is warm.
And on the other side of me is, of course, our regular Liberal Senator, WA, of course, Mathias Cormann. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Now, have we started the year off positively? Can I ask maybe Louise first? Has it been a good start to the year?
We've had a pretty extraordinary start to the year, but I think we're definitely...
Just quickly, 30 seconds.
Well, certainly very stressful. It's always a difficult decision to kind of decide who you want your Prime Minister to be. We've got two fantastic people.
Who have you decided it will be?
Well, I'm very happy that it's Julia Gillard.
Yeah. Now, she won the vote of caucus. Kevin Rudd's been put on the backbench. And is it business as usual now?
Yes, absolutely. Getting on with governing and getting on with passing legislation through the Parliament.
And what is the focus now of our government, our Labor Party? Together, what are you focusing? Which way are we going?
Well, first and foremost, it's about the economy and protecting people's jobs and making sure that we keep people in employment. And I think our government's been very good at that. Soon the carbon price will be introduced and people will start to see that roll through the economy, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. I think it's going to bring enormous benefit to people.
Okay. Mathias Cormann, on the other side. Has it been a good year? Do you think everything's worked out well, good leadership?
Well, it's been a very turbulent start to the year. We've had a government that was totally focused on themselves, that rather than to focus on the national interest at a time when we face a lot of challenges around the world, essentially they were at each other's throat or with knives in each other's backs. And I don't think that moving forward that is going to improve much. Now, on the carbon tax, I mean, Louise just mentioned, the carbon tax will come into place 1 July, and it will, of course, be the world's largest carbon tax, which will make even the most environmentally efficient business in Australia less competitive than higher emitting businesses overseas. It will cost jobs, it will push up the cost of living, and all of that without doing anything to reduce global emissions, and that's not a good thing.
On the carbon tax, we know it's coming in, it's law, it's been passed by Parliament. The compensation package for those people like myself and pensioners, etc., that are a bit harder done by, do we think that's going to be fair enough to cover all the raises in prices? We've
modelled it very carefully, so I believe it will be. And the other part of it is I really take issue with what Mathias has said about the impact on jobs, because if you accept that climate change is real, then you have to accept that the economy needs to adjust at some point in the future to reduce emissions. So we're better off doing that now and doing that early and compensating households for that impact.
Louise, the former Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, made a comment that before he became nothing, I suppose we can call him now, before he was deposed.
Backbencher.
He was against bringing in the carbon tax. He also made some claims. I know there was a lot of heated discussions between all the Labor Party. One of the claims was that he did not want to see a carbon tax brought in before the next election. He didn't want to bring in a carbon tax before the opposition would agree with him. And obviously he was deposed as Prime Minister. Julia Gillard came in. She did make that promise that a government that she led would never introduce a carbon tax. Do you think that's going to stick with her? I know that we keep bringing it up, but just like we keep bringing up the fact that the carbon tax has gone through, do you think that's the sticking point? You're in WA, you've got a Liberal Conservative government here. What are the people in WA are saying? Is it a sticking point for them that that promise was broken?
Well, look, I think the important thing is that we now get on and deliver it, because what people will see is that it's not the end of the world, and in actual fact it brings with it a lot of benefit.
Are you hoping that when it comes in, people won't see it as disastrous as the Liberal Party has painted?
That's right.
Well, Martin Ferguson, I just want to jump in here.
Okay.
Martin Ferguson, Labor Minister for Resources and Energy in Canberra, he was on the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald saying that industry is concerned about the carbon price Labor has locked in, that it could be to our disadvantage as a nation given where the price in Europe is. And what is important to know is the carbon tax in Australia will be the largest, the highest, the most complex of anywhere in the world. Higher than in Europe, and of course in the US, China, India, they're not going to have one at all. So businesses in all these countries are going to become more competitive than businesses in Australia.
What do you say to that claim?
We have just had another summer of extraordinary floods, and you have to actually look at what climate change means and how much that costs economies like Australia and global economies. And ultimately, we will be ahead by taking action on climate change early and getting our economy ready for that future.
What happens if we did get it wrong, Louise? Is the government prepared to say...
And the carbon tax is not going to fix it.
Say it does do harm to the economy, say people are suffering, say power prices go up. Is there any anything in the system to say, OK, maybe we got it wrong, do we need to fix it? Is the government going to be flexible enough to say, OK, maybe some things were wrong?
Look, governments have to be, but we're pretty sure we've got it right.
So you're moving ahead with it, nothing's going to stop the carbon tax no matter what the Liberals say?
Or Martin Ferguson, the Federal Labor Minister for Resources.
Well, how do you, the claim about Martin Ferguson,
it would be like putting your hands up and saying, let's not do anything about climate change. That would be a terrible thing to do.
All right. Moving away from carbon tax, because it looks to me like it's a foregone conclusion. It's coming in. The Liberals are going to oppose it for the rest of the year with reason.
And we'll rescind it when we get into government.
And will you do that? Will that definitely be happening?
Well, I mean, the next election will be a referendum on the carbon tax.
So how
and if we win the next election, we will have a mandate to rescind the carbon tax. And you know what? I make a bet with you. I make a bet with you.
How much?
If we win the next election, the Bill Shorten, as leader of the opposition, you've heard it here first, will be as fast as he can to sit next to Tony Abbott, to vote with Tony Abbott to rescind it, because there's actually people inside the Labor Party now who know that the broken promise on the carbon tax was the wrong thing to do, is not in our national interest, and will hurt working families.
So, Mathias, are you saying the Liberal government, Liberal coalition government, will rescind it no matter what? So they won't come in and say, once you look at the books, the paperwork, the debt, will you come in and say, oh, we can't afford it?
Let me tell you something about the carbon tax which is not widely understood, and that is it actually leaves the budget worse off. This Labor government has introduced two new taxes, the mining tax and the carbon tax, and they've attached a whole series of expenditure to it. And both the carbon tax package and the mining tax package both leave the budget worse off. The carbon tax will raise $25 billion, and they've already spent $31 billion. Getting rid of the carbon tax and not proceeding with all of the promises attached to it will actually leave the budget better off.
A question for you. You rescind the carbon tax. Let's say it happens. How will you then take back pension increases, tax cuts? Now, I'm saying to you, that's going to be a hard one, because you've got pensioners that may get that $4 extra.
But you know what, Fred? Like, do you remember Peter Costello?
I do remember.
Peter Costello used to deliver surplus budgets. He used to pay off Labor's debt, and he used to deliver income tax cut after income tax cut.
Will you remove that competition?
This is what we will be doing. What we've already said on the record is we will deliver lower income tax without a carbon tax. We will deliver tax cuts and various other measures without a carbon tax, like hurting people on one hand, and then sort of trying to give them some compensation on the other. We totally have.
So what happens? I mean, my thing, Louise, is are we committing to, if the carbon tax goes, are pensioners going to have their pension stripped back? Would you do that, or would you say no? That stays as it is. Would everything stay?
Louise, that's actually not right. You look at our track. Look at our track record. Our track record is that we have actually delivered a better deal by reducing personal income tax, by improving pension arrangements, without whacking people with the carbon tax first. We've already had Macquarie Generation. Macquarie Generation is the biggest power supplier in Australia. They've already said that the government's figures on the impact of the carbon tax on electricity prices are wrong, that electricity prices will go up by more. There'll be more and more of it. And I mean, the government's got no answer for it.
Thank you very much. It seems like we've filled up the whole segment today on carbon tax. Louise, it seems like turbulent times coming up. I don't think you'll get an easy night
I think we're in steady hands.
Do you think
that the Prime Minister's really proven that she's able to
Do you think she'll be the Prime Minister in 18 months?
Yes.
Do you honestly believe that the public will support her? Opinion polls have come out and they're saying that she's still not very popular. I know the Liberals have taken a little bit of a drop with everything that's happened.
It's not about opinion polls. It's about doing the right thing by the country, and our Prime Minister's very good at that.
And I would love to ask Mathias, with all the disaster that's happened on the Labor side, we haven't seen it affect the Liberals. You would think Tony Abbott would be incredibly high in the opinion polls, but it hasn't really affected him. Is that because it hasn't been a Liberal issue?
I mean, both in terms of the field evidence and in terms of the polls, I'm very comfortable with where we're at. If you look at the published polls, if you look at the field evidence, we're in a very strong position to be the government after the next election. People out there are hungry for good government. They're tired of this divided, incompetent, dysfunctional government, which is the current Labor government.
And you disagree with all of that, obviously?
I certainly do.
I know you do a great job, both of you. You've got a busy session in Parliament coming up next few months?
Yes.
What are we tackling, just quickly?
Well, we've got the budget coming up, and we've got Senate estimates after that, so it'll be an exciting time.
An Assistant Treasurer on the opposition side, what are you doing?
Well, I'll be focusing on making sure that people understand how terrible the mining tax is and that we desperately need a better government for Australia.
I think we've got a few issues we have to discuss further on. Thank you for coming in today. Louise Pratt, of course, the Labor Senator for WA. Mathias Cormann, Liberal Senator for WA as well. Thank you very much for being here today. And it looks like we're going to have heated discussions in weeks to come on the show. We have to do a fortnightly session, I think.